I swear these videos are not sponsored by Red Bull, but it's the only reason I'm awake right now and ready to get crafting. Hey friends, it's Simon Hurley and welcome to another video. Today I'm super excited because I'm unveiling a new Christmas collection with Spellbinders, and this is one of my favorite releases I've done with them so far. If you didn't know, Christmas is my favorite holiday and I absolutely love decorating the house for Christmas. I always beg my mom to start decorating our house before Halloween even ends because I love the vibes that Christmas decor brings. It is so bright and cheerful. And I wanted to take my love for home decor and decorations and encapsulate that into a collection. So we created the Timeless Trees collection, which kind of all centers around the Christmas tree and all the decorations you can put around it. So there are lots of really great and adorable Christmas trees inside of this collection, but also things like ornaments and mantle pieces, different houses, and reindeer that can all be used together to create beautiful Christmas cards. It's a really good one, and I truly can't wait to show you everything that's inside of this release. And do know that everything is available right now, and I'll leave links down below where you can check out the release and all the supplies I used in today's video. And remember, using those links helps support me, so I really appreciate it. Now without further ado, let's get into it. So like I said, everything centers around the Christmas tree. So naturally, I thought that's where we would start. So first I'm going to share a look at the classic Christmas tree die set. This die set features a large layered Christmas tree that has branches, a base, and 3 different layers that you can add on top, as well as different things to accessorize the tree. So you have different ornaments, a tree collar, stars, and some gifts and bows. And it ends up creating a beautiful Christmas tree that looks like this. I absolutely love that layered look. It really makes it look nice and 3D and gives it tons of depth and dimension with those layers. And then of course, all the different embellishment images in the set really make this tree look so beautiful and well put together. And one thing that I love about this tree is even though it has several different layers to create that 3D effect, the layers are really easy to put together and it's not a ton of pieces. That's one thing that I always talk to the Spellbinders team about, to make sure these dies are super easy to put together for all of you and me, because I'm a lazy crafter and I like to make things nice and easy, but still have a beautiful look to them once you're complete. And also, this is the size of an A2 size card, so you can see this Christmas tree and accessories are nice and large to fill a card really beautifully and make that the gorgeous focal point of the card. Alright, so let's cut out the pieces for this Christmas tree, and then I'll show you how easy it is to assemble the pieces. To start, we'll take a dark green scrap of cardstock and this large base of the tree, and I'm just going to cut it out of that. Next, I'll use a mid-tone green piece of cardstock, and there should be 3 kind of branch pieces for your tree. This is going to be the top layer, and we'll cut this out of that mid-tone green color. And we'll run this right through our die cutting machine. And we'll stare at each other really awkwardly as all of these pieces go through and cut out. We should probably address the glasses too. I feel like Santa Claus in these, except I feel like he would wear them like down here. And now this is really giving Santa Claus vibes. I feel like up here it just gives punk rock. All right, then we can pop out that base of the tree and all of the different branch pieces cut out really easily too. And these pieces are what gives it tons of depth and detail and dimension to the tree. Makes it very unique to anything else that I've seen with different Christmas trees in the market. And with all these little pieces, as we cut them out, I like to put them inside of these little scrapbook.com stackable containers, especially when the pieces start to get smaller. That way I don't lose anything on my desk, and when I'm ready to put it all together, I have all the pieces ready to go in one of these containers. Makes it super easy to organize everything. For the middle layer of the tree, I'm going to go in and cut out these branches using a dark brown piece of cardstock. And then I'll use a piece of gold mirrored cardstock to cut out the tree color, which has 2 different pieces that are going to layer together. And I'll also cut out the little stars out of gold. So for this next step, I'm going to use one of the large Altenew sticky mats. I really love this because it has a textured side underneath it, so it doesn't get any air bubbles when you stick it down to your surface, but it grips onto the surface you're working on really nicely. And then it has this flat surface, which is really nice and sticky, and it's great for holding things in place while you're working on them. And I want these die cut pieces held in place while we add some ink to them to make them look a little bit more 3D. So I'm going to place the tree pieces down. And then I also like this large mat because it has room on the side to put your ink pad too, so it holds your ink pad in place while you're doing your blending. I'm gonna go in with a mini little blending brush from Altenew and some fake plant ink, which is a little bit darker than this green colored cardstock. And I'm just gonna go in and blend some of that ink onto the tree branches. So for this, I'm just adding some of that darker color more towards the center of the branches here to give them kind of a 3D look of depth and dimension. And then for this large piece, I'm just gonna go in sort of around the edges and just add a little bit of dark color just by quickly and easily blending that on. And I love how the mat sort of holds onto these pieces and makes this really quick and easy to blend. All right, and when we lift these pieces off, you can see just how that little bit of ink really changes these and gives them a nice 3D look with tons of depth. To clean off the ink, I'm going to spray it down with a little bit of water, and then I'll go in with some paper towel or lint-free cloth and wipe off that ink. And my Simon Hurley inks clean off really easily, but you could also use stamp cleaner if you want to. This might stain, so don't be alarmed if it does, but if your ink pad usually stains a stamp, it's definitely going to stain this mat as well. And once that water evaporates off there, it becomes nice and sticky and ready to use for your next project. All right, now let's assemble these pieces together. So starting off with the base of that tree, then I'm gonna go in with this branch piece and just apply a little bit of liquid glue all over the back. I'm using Barely Arts liquid glue because I really love the fine tip application bottle that's on this glue. Makes it really easy to get into the little areas of pieces like this. Then I'm gonna take that branch piece and adhere it right down on top of that green base and give it some good pressure to adhere those together. This next layer is in 3 pieces, which is the top of the tree, and I'll just add a little bit of liquid glue all over the back. Then you'll line it up with the top and place it right down. Then you'll go in with that middle layer and apply glue and adhere that right down, just butting it up against that top piece. It's very difficult to mess this up because it kind of has an organic look and it doesn't need to be super exact. Then I'll just butt up this last piece with the middle and adhere it right down. And that looks amazing. It really brings this tree to life to have that lighter layer up front, the branches in between, which you can still see poking out, and then that bottom layer of the darkest green. It creates a beautiful looking tree, which you could of course create a little forest of these trees, but then also I'll show you how to dress it up to make it the perfect Christmas tree. To do the Christmas tree collar, I'm gonna add a little bit of glue onto the back of the base of the tree, and then I'll glue it to the center of the base of that tree collar. Then I'll take the top more detailed piece of the tree collar, and I love the line details in this because it makes it look like a brushed gold tree color. I'll add some liquid glue to the back and I'll line this up on the base of the front of that tree collar. And it sandwiches the base of that tree right in between and creates a beautiful and elegant look for the base of your tree. Now let's add a star by adding glue to the top and easily adding on one of those gorgeous stars. Now I want to make little ornaments for this Christmas tree that are nice and sparkly. So to do this, I'm going to go in using Astro Paste in the color Bee Sting, which is a really great bright red color. And I'm going to do this on red colored cardstock because my goal is to not add a full coverage layer of glitter. I'm just going to add a thin layer on top of this red color to add a little bit of red sparkle. So to do this, I'm just going to go in using my finger and a little bit of the Astro Paste, and then I'll lay some of the Astro Paste down on the surface. And then I'm going to go in kind of a tapping motion to apply it and spread it a little bit thinner across the surface here. The tapping motion helps with a glitter paste like this because you don't want to push the glitter around with your finger, and tapping it on is just going to give you that thin coverage of glitter without tons of the paste being there. That looks perfect. You don't really see much right now because the paste is suspended in sort of a milky base, but once this dries in a couple of minutes, since it's so thin, then you'll really start to see all of that glitter sparkling and it will become completely clear with lots of glitter on it. And don't worry about your finger, a little bit of water while that's still wet and some paper towel is going to completely remove that glitter from your finger, and it doesn't make a huge mess at all. And I'm impatient, so one thing that I love so much about this paste is that it's heat stable, so you can go in with a heat tool to heat set it. Now this layer is super thin, so it's only going to need a couple seconds under that heat tool to dry, or a couple of minutes just setting it off to the side. But if you applied the paste a little bit thicker, it'll take a little bit more heat, or about 20 to 30 minutes to dry. If you are heating it, you just want to make sure to keep your heat tool moving across the surface so that it doesn't boil the paste or bubble it, and just keep an even heat all across the surface. And once that's completely dry, it becomes really nice and clear. You can still see that red cardstock underneath it, but there is tons of red glitter on top of that surface, and it gives you a beautiful sparkle and shine. And one thing I love so much about Astro Paste is that once that's completely dry, none of that glitter is going to come off on your recipient's hand. Doesn't rub off, and it is completely clean. There is no mess involved, which is one of my favorite parts because I hate glitter when it gets all over the place, but I love glitter when it's nice and shiny and stays in place like this. And I'm gonna go in with all of the different ornaments to cut them out. Now I'm not gonna use the gifts or the gift bows for today's card, but if you wanted to, that'd be fun to cut out a glitter colored cardstock too. And we'll have no problem cutting out that Astro Paste glitter on top of there either. Then I'm gonna go in and add little dots of glue all around the tree. I just like to do this kind of randomly. And this allows me to go in with the different shapes of glittered ornaments that I cut out and easily adhere them right down onto the tree. And I love that there's different shapes of the ornaments included inside of the set, so you can spread them all across the tree and make sure that none of the ornaments that are next to each other look alike. And I love the little bit of glitter and shine that adds to the Christmas tree. Now for the background of this card, I want to dig back into the archives of, well, just last year, and we created this really great 3D embossing folder called Quilt, which is just the perfect kind of quilted pattern for any one of your cards, and I especially love it for the holiday season, but it's just a great geometric for all year round. I'm going to use it with this sort of berry red colored cardstock. Whenever I do any sort of 3D embossing, I like to spray down the card with just some water to get it ready to mold to the design of cardstock without cracking. Then I'll open this folder up and place it right inside, right in the center, and I'll close the folder on my cardstock. Then for 3D embossing with the Spellbinders folders, I'm gonna go in with the A platform base. Then I'll bring in the 3D embossing folder and cardstock, and then I'll go in using the D adapter plate right on top. And this is the perfect sandwich for 3D embossing in your Platinum 6 machine, and I'll run this right through. And I mean, check that out. Super cool 3D emboss design. You get so much texture with this Quilt folder, and I love that sort of quilted geometric design, just like the name describes. It is perfect for this Christmas card and very classic. Now, if you've seen my videos before, you know that I just can't help but add a little bit of ink around the edges to make it stand out and give the card some depth. So I'm gonna go in using some Game Over ink, which is this darker maroon color, and my sponge blending tool, and I'm just going to go around the edge and add a little bit of ink. I especially love to do this when there's a 3D embossing folder involved because it sort of catches the raised areas of that folder most and is going to give you the darkest look around there and really highlights that design nicely. And I'm just going to go all around the edges of that design and blend it in. This is naturally going to draw your eye to the center of your card where it's lighter, and that's usually where your focal point is going to be as well. So this really nicely, naturally draws your eye towards that focal point. And just check out how much of a difference that makes. I really think that it brings that background to life nicely and sort of brings a nice complete look to the card. Okay, now I've cut an oval of white cardstock, and there's a couple ways we could finish off this card. We can either just place the Christmas tree right down on top of that red background, and that gives it a nice modern look. Or we could go in with this white oval that I've cut out, kind of as a backing piece, and then add the tree on top. And to me, this gives more of kind of a vintage look, but I really like the look of that. Okay, so I've been FaceTiming and texting friends for the last 10 minutes, trying to decide what to do for today's card. I think both ways would work, but nobody was really definitively one way or the other. There was lots of mixed decisions until one person said, what if I added vellum or made kind of a clear backer instead? Because you kind of get the best of both worlds. So I've cut that same oval out of a piece of vellum and placing that behind. And I really like the look of that. That way you still get a little bit of that red kind of poking through, but you still get a nice backer for that Christmas tree to make it stand out beautifully. So I'll adhere that Christmas tree down onto the vellum, and then I want the vellum to pop off the card a little bit. So I've added some foam tape right on the back of that vellum, just underneath the Christmas tree so that it's hidden. And then I'll pop that up front and center onto the card. And this gives it some nice dimension on the card, and you can't see any of the adhesive that's under the vellum. So for the sentiments for the cards today, we have a couple different options that I've created with Spellbinders for Christmas and the holidays. First, we have this handwritten holiday sentiments die set that has a bunch of different sentiments to kind of cover you for Christmas and winter cards. And here is a look at what those sentiments look like all cut out. They're absolutely gorgeous for your card making project, and I love that each one includes a shadow, so you can do sort of a two-toned look or do it in black and white to really make it stand out off of the card making project. So lots of options inside of this set. And then we also have a couple different sets that I've done with Spellbinders that are hot foil plate and die sets. So you can do some really beautiful foiling on your card making project to get silver or gold or whatever color hot foil you want to use to match your holiday projects. This first one is called Wonderful Winter Sentiments. It has a couple different kind of longer Christmas sentiments, but also ones that are more winter and Santa Claus themed as well. So you really have some that are great for all of the cold season long. And then we also have this set called Joyful Christmas Sentiments, which has some more shorter sentiments. They're kind of more stacked on top of each other, and they're sort of just the classic Christmas and holiday themed sentiments. Now, what I love so much about both of these hot foil plate and die sets is that all of the sentiments and all of the sentiment dies are on one plate. So it takes one pass to foil all the sentiments at once, and then it takes one die to cut them all out. This is a huge time saver and game changer when it comes to making Christmas and holiday cards. Because if I want to mass produce my Christmas cards, it's really easy to do all of these and have 5 sentiments sentiments just in one pass. Then you can cut them all out and use just a different sentiment on each one of your holiday cards. I love that option because, like I said, I'm kind of a lazy crafter. I hate to admit it, but I am. And so this makes it very easy to foil and cut the sentiments in a matter of no time. All right, so let's start off by cutting my hot foil to size. I'm gonna go in with the gold Glimmer hot foil from Spellbinders. And I'm doing this on top of a little vantage cutting mat here. Then I'm going to take the hot foil plate that I want to use, line it up with the design side facing down on top of the foil. Then I'm going to go in with a rotary trimmer. I like this little one from OLFA. It's nice and small and it cuts through the foil super easily. And I'm just going to go in and trim right along the side of this hot foil plate. It's very easy to do and it cuts like a breeze. The reason why I really like this rotary trimmer is because you can cut off all the excess super easily, whereas with a scissors, this would be a lot more difficult to do. Because the foil is so thin, the scissors never want to really cut it properly and it kind of bends all over the place. So this makes it very easy. And then you just put up this little safety guard so you don't cut yourself and you can store your rotary trimmer away. Then to do my foiling, I like to use my Simon Hurley Stark White cardstock. It's nice and smooth for foiling. Then I'll place down my Glimmer hot foil with the pretty side of the foil facing up towards me. And then I'll take my hot foil plate and I'm going to place that down with the pretty design side of the hot foil plate facing towards that pretty side of the foil. So pretty side of the foil plate facing towards the pretty side of the foil. Then I'm going to go in with some mint tape or any heat safe tape, and I'm just going to tape this down to my project to hold it in place while we run it through our foiling and die cutting machine. This just ensures that nothing is going to shift during the process and we'll get a really nice and clean foiling. Then once the platform is ready, this little button here will turn green and we can take our taped down hot foil plate on our project and face it down towards that heat plate, and then we'll press that timer button, and once this goes solid and stops blinking green, you know that it's ready to do our foiling. All right, and then once that's ready, we'll place down our plates right on top and we'll pull this out of the machine. And then we'll just slowly run this through our Platinum Spellbinders die cutting machine to make sure that everything transfers really nicely. Then I'm going to go in and slowly peel off that gold foil and check out how beautifully those sentiments are foiled. It looks so professional and beautiful, especially for holiday cards. Then I'm going to go in with the coordinating die and I'm just going to place this down and line it up with all of the sentiments at once. And once everything is perfectly lined up, we'll go in with our mint tape to hold the die down in place while we run it through our die cutting machine. And then we'll just slowly run this through our die cutting machine as we awkwardly stare into each other's eyes and cut all of our 5 sentiments out at once. That was easy. All right, now let me put on my readers for this part. And we can pop these sentiments out really easily and you have all of the sentiments cut out at once and you get 5 different sentiments easily for your card making projects. And then I like to just store these in one of my little scrapbook.com stackable containers, and I would usually do a lot of this foiling at once. While I have out the Glimmer hot foil machine, I'll foil a bunch of sentiments and use them all year long for my holiday card making projects. And then to finish off the card, I'm going to add that foiled Merry Christmas sentiment front and center on some foam tape on top of that tree. And here's a closer look at that finished card. I love how this came together so beautifully with that classic Christmas tree as the focal point of the card. That layered Christmas tree is absolutely gorgeous, and although it was easy to put together, it looks so stunning and 3D in the end. And then putting the whole card together using that Geo Quilt folder and the foiled sentiment worked out really well and gave this a beautiful classic Christmas look. I absolutely love it and can't wait to give this Christmas card out. And let me know in the comments down below too, which one you liked best. Did you like the white circle? Do you like the vellum circle that we created? Or did you like it just on the red card base? I don't think there was necessarily any way to go wrong, but it looks completely different no matter how you spin it, and I want to hear your opinions down below. Now, after seeing that gorgeous Christmas tree, let's zoom in a little bit more into that tree and show you a really beautiful 3D embossing folder called Branches, which creates the most stunning and realistic looking pine branches on your card making project. So with this 3D embossing folder, you have a bunch of different pine branches all throughout the embossing folder, and I love that you have different sections to choose from with this. This is an A2 size card, and with Spellbinders embossing folders, they're nice and large, so you can really choose what part of the design you want to use, or you can use a larger card base like a 5x7 card inside of here. It really allows for tons of versatility when you're crafting, and you get to choose which part of this that you want to use. There's more branches closer together down here, and they're a little bit further apart up here. And one thing that we decided to add to this to make it even more versatile for your card making is a die that comes along with. And this die is made to cut out this large pine branch right here. And I thought that was so important. That way, if you're using this on your card front, sort of at the top there, and you want to cut this out, you can then pop it up off your card making project make it stand out a little bit more, and make anything hang from that. So you can hang bells or ornaments from that, and it makes for a really great embossing folder and even more versatility. So here is an up close look at what that pine branch looks like cut out. It does a really great job at cutting out all of those details, and you get such an awesome look from it. Now for the branches 3D embossing folder, I'm gonna go in with a mid-tone green piece of cardstock. Again, I'll spray the surface of this down to get it nice and ready to mold to the embossing folder without cracking. Then I'll go inside of this embossing folder and line it up where I want it exactly on the card. And I'm gonna line it up so that big branch piece that we can cut out is kind of at the top of the card here so that we can hang the ornaments from it nicely. And then I'll place that folder down, kind of check how that looks. I think that looks great. And then again, we'll place in the A platform base with the 3D embossing folder, and then we'll do the D adapter plate on top and run that through the die cutting machine to press that embossing into the cardstock. Check that out. It looks like a real 3D Christmas tree. I love all of those amazing branches and all of that insane dimension it adds too. It is so cool and unique. All right, now I also want to cut out a separate piece that is just this branch. And the process for that is a little bit different, so let me put on my glasses as we quickly explain through this. So you're gonna need another mid-tone green sheet of cardstock, which we'll place down in our die cutting machine, and you'll use the coordinating die that came along in the embossing folder and cut that out. I know it's weird to cut it out first, but trust me, this is the process you're gonna wanna do. And we'll slowly stare at each other as we run this right through our die cutting machine incredibly awkwardly. And once that's cut out, we have this branch piece that's all die cut. All right, now we're doing the embossing step second, because if we die cut after embossing, it's going to flatten it. So we've die cut our piece first, and then all we're going to do is take this and place it in the top of our embossing folder to easily line it up in the center of that branch design. It's quite simple to do and should look something like this. Once it's completely aligned, don't move a thing and close the embossing folder right onto that design. If you want to tape it in place, you totally could, but if you just hold the folder together like this, it shouldn't move. And check that out. It embosses that branch beautifully, and it's all die cut around the edges, and it didn't have to flatten at all. It still has all of that amazing texture. It's meant to be die cut first and emboss second. Super easy to do that step, but I think these made me look a little bit smarter as we explained through it. For sure. Those make me look like I know what I'm doing. All right, now I want to add ink to the background, not the raised section of these branches. So to do this, because I want to add ink down to the background, I'm going to flip over this embossed designs so the branches are debossed and pressed downwards, and that this background is the highest raised texture. Now, if you want the branch to be darker and the background to be lighter, you'll use the embossed side, where the branches are higher. So it just depends on what you want to be the darkest, but for this case, I'm using the debossed side. And all I'm gonna do is quickly and easily take an ink pad. So this is Later Gator, which is just slightly darker than the colored cardstock that we used. And I'm just going to rub this along the surface. And this is going to quickly and easily add a layer of ink down to the background and make the background a little bit darker than the branches themselves. And you can see just how simple this is. There's not really much thought going into it. I don't need my professor glasses to do this step, and we can easily rub on some ink to give it some depth and dimension. And I'll do the same thing for this branch, flipping it over to the debossed side and just applying ink on the back there. Then if I want to make it a little bit darker around the edges, I'll go in using Fake Plant, and I'm just going to bring this ink pad in right around the edges to kind of darken those areas up of the design and make them nice and intense. Really brings lots of depth and dimension to this design. All right, then I'm going to pop this branch up on some foam tape and lay it right down on top of the design up at the top here. And then I can go in and chop off any of the remaining pieces that are hanging over the edge. Now, I love collecting different ornaments for my tree, and I'm always really drawn to the kind of vintage looking, super ornate, beautiful ornaments. So that's what inspired this next set called Layered Vintage Christmas Ornaments. This has 3 different large ornaments as well as inserts for them that cut out all of these beautiful details inside of the ornaments. You also get different toppers for the ornaments. the strings, and this really gorgeous layered bow that adds a nice embellishment to any one of the ornaments, or you can use it along in any of the other Christmas die sets. And here is what a project looks like with those ornaments. You can see they're really nice and large, and I love the layered effect that they have. Again, the layering is super simple since it's just 2 layers to make these ornaments, but it makes them look so ornate and beautiful, and I absolutely love the designs in each one. And of course, this bow is really stunning as well. Like I said, you can use it in this ornament set, or you can use it to embellish any of the other Christmas sets. It's just a really beautiful bow. Alright then, for the ornaments, I'm going to use 2 of the ornament shapes in today's video, and then we'll also grab the insert pieces for the ornaments. For the ornaments, I'm choosing 2 different colors, and I'm going to use a lighter and darker color of each of those colors. For the lighter colors, I'm going to use the frame shape of the ornament. So I'll cut this one out of blue and this one out of light red. And while we do this, I'm also going to cut the strings and the toppers out of mirrored gold cardstock. Then to cut out the detailed layer of the ornaments, we're going to take the frame and drop the insert piece right inside and line it up in the center. Then we'll use a bit of mint tape and lay that across to hold both of the pieces together in place. And we'll do the same thing with the other shaped ornament, dropping it into the center and holding it together with mint tape. Then we'll use the darker of each color to cut this layer out. And then for these detailed layers, I'm going to place them down onto my sticky mat again and use a little blending brush to just go around the ornament with a little bit of a darker color and add some depth and dimension. By adding depth and dimension on these ornaments just around the edges and leaving that center lighter, it makes these look like these are round images because that lightest point in the center would be closest towards you. So it gives you some really great shading to make these look more 3D. And we'll do the same thing with this blue one, adding a bit of shading all around the edges using a bit of Midnight Snack ink, which is a little bit darker than the color of this blue cardstock, and it's going to really bring it to life. And then again, just clean this mat off with a little bit of water and wipe it with paper towel and it'll look brand new. Adhering these together is super simple. We'll just add a little bit of glue all over the back of the detailed layer, and then we'll line it up with the bottom of the ornament and adhere both of those pieces together. And same thing for this red layer, we'll add glue to the back and stick this layer together. Putting the toppers together is also super easy. We'll just place the layer right on top and it gives it a bit more of an ornate look. And then we'll just add these right onto the tops of the ornaments. And that's the perfect finishing touch to bring these to life. Then we'll trim the string down and easily tuck them underneath. And then I'll glue this red ornament straight down onto the card. And then I'll pop this bottom ornament up on some foam tape. And then to finish this card off, I'll add the Deck the Halls sentiment on top of those strings on some foam tape. And that finishes this card off beautifully. I absolutely love how it turned out with that Branches 3D embossing folder in the background to really create an up close look at a realistic looking Christmas tree branch. And I love that we were able to pop up one of the branches with that included die, so you're able to string ornaments underneath it and really make everything look seamless and beautiful. And I can't even begin on how beautiful those ornaments are. I absolutely love the vintage layered looking ornaments. They're so ornate and stunning, and I just did them really simple out of two-tone, but of course you can add glitter with the Astro Paste and really bring these to life even further. This one is so beautiful and those ornaments really stand out on this card. Now, a cult classic for me every single year when it comes to holiday card making is a great wood grain pattern. So we went in and created this bark inspired 3D embossing folder. And this adds tons of texture and dimension to your card. You get so many different layers of the texture. And in here, we've created a really great bark pattern. With this large size embossing folder, again, you have lots of room to decide which kind of section of that bark pattern you want to use, or if you want to use a bigger piece of cardstock, which is really nice about these Spellbinders embossing folders. And I also wanted to show you that when you do this embossing folder, when you add ink and really step it up like this, you get the most beautiful, realistic looking wood grain along with all of that insane texture that's on your card project. So it's really cool when you bring it to life like this, and you can really get the vision of that sort of wood grain and bark, tree bark design, which I think is so cool. And here I did it on a smaller A2 size card with different brown colors to really bring it to life. So you can do it in several different ways and get beautiful looks every single time. And if you don't want to go super dark brown like that and make it look like wood, you can also just keep it white and have that amazing wood grain bark texture without going in with all that brown and grungy colors. So it's really up to you, but I think this embossing folder is going to be one of my favorites for using all year round during the fall or the Christmas holidays. It is a great texture to have in your crafting collection. So for this card, I want a wood grain background, but I want it to only be kind of halfway up on the card like this to create a great grounding place for my trees. So I'm going to go in with the bark embossing folder. I'll mist down my cardstock just a little bit to get it ready. And then I'm going to sandwich the bottom of my cardstock in between that bark 3D embossing folder. I think about that height of the design should be good. So whatever's inside of the folder is going to emboss, and whatever is outside is not going to emboss with that design. All right, then for the embossing, I'm going to use the A platform base. We'll feed the rest of that card right through my machine. And then I'm going to use the D adapter plate and run this through the die cutting machine. And check this out. Once you pull that out, it gives you a really great kind of wood grain embossed design, but I love that it's only partially on that card. So it's a really great way to keep the card one layer and add some dimension and interest without doing the whole card embossed. Then to add some dimension to this, I'm going to go in with my mint tape and tape this right down above that embossed design. This is going to mask off that top half so we can keep it white, and it allows us to apply any ink that we want to on this bottom half to make it look like a real wood grain. So to make this look like a wood grain, I'm going to go in with my Gur ink and my domed foam blending tool. This is my lighter brown color, and I'm just going to blend this all over the background. And you can really see how cool and 3D this folder really is once you start applying ink to it. The ink really catches onto the highs and lows of that design and starts to really bring out the look of wood grain. Now, if you want to warm it up a little bit, you can go in with a little bit of cookie dough, which is a lighter color, but it's a super warm colored brown. And then last but not least, we can go in with some Weeping Willow, and I'm just going to go in and touch this a little bit to the raised areas by swiping the ink pad over top of the surface. That's going to hit the really high highs of the embossing folder and make them super dark and crisp. And I can also go in with the blending tool and just hit the top half of this to make that section a little bit darker and give it some contrast. Then I'm going to gently remove the mint tape, and you can see that really great, straight, crisp line in the design. And this creates a great grounding place where we could add our trees down on top. Now for the focal point of this next card, let's talk about one of my favorite kinds of trees lately for decorating for Christmas, which is bottle brush trees. I love them. I fell in love with them a couple different years ago, and I've been collecting them for all over my house ever since. What I love so much about bottle brush trees is their kind of character and personality, and that there's so many different types, whether it's different colors or textures or bases or different shapes of them. You can get them in so many different varieties. And so we had tons of fun with the whimsical bottle brush trees that we created, which you get 2 different types of trees inside of here. You're really able to create 3 different types of trees with these 2. And then you also have 3 different stands as well as a layering piece for the stands to make them more 3D. And this is what those bottle brush trees look like, and this is sized on an A2 size card for scale. So like I said, with those branches, you can either create a 2-layer or 3-layer tree here, as well as that kind of more pokey one in the center. And then you can see all 3 of those different shaped bases. I love that this set is very unique to what I've seen from other bottle brush trees on the market in the crafting world. These have a really great kind of whimsical character and personality to them with the different types of bristles that they have for the tree branches. But I thought it was so much fun to bring out for the Christmas holiday, and I can't wait to see what you guys do with this. You can of course go classic like I did here and do green, but really by changing up the colors, you can give the trees so much different personality and make it work for your card making style, which I think is so much fun. So like I said, I was super inspired by all of the different bottle brush tree colors this year, so I wanted to do a little bit out of the ordinary rather than just using greens for this card. Now for this first one, I am going to use greens. I'll pull up both layers, and I'm going to cut them out of both different olive green colors of my cardstock. And then I'm going to use these kind of burnt orange colors, these rusty colors, and I'll cut them out of the other branches. And we'll run this right through my die cutting machine to awkwardly cut them out. We'll stare at each other as we slowly run them through. And then I'll use this berry red and plum color, and then cut these more whimsical branches out again. And then I'll use a piece of craft colored cardstock, and I'll cut out all of the different bases and the little topper for the bases out of that color. All right, then let's adhere these together. Starting off, I'm going to adhere the little toppers down, and these just go right on top of the bases to add a little bit of dimension. And I'll do that same step to all 3 of them. All right, and then to adhere the branches together, I'm starting off with the bottom piece of these whimsical branches, and you'll just glue them right on top of each other. And this is going to make it so that each branch is in between the other like this. It's super easy to do, and you can repeat it with all 3 layers. So grab the 2 middle pieces and line them up at the top. And then same thing for the very top. And then we'll just stack them right on top of each other by adding glue to the top and gluing on that middle piece, and then adding glue to the top here and gluing on the very top. For the orange tree, we're going to do the same thing by lining them up on top of each other and adhering them together so that they go in between each other. But you're only going to do this with the bottom and the middle piece of the tree. You don't need to do the very top. And then we'll adhere that together super easily. And then for the green tree, we're going to adhere glue all the way down the center. And then we'll line the layers up so that they overlap and that there's branches in between every other one like this. All right, and there we go. We have the perfect bottle brush tree set. All right, and then we're going to take our bottle brush trees and add glue all the way to the back. And then we'll adhere those right down to the card where the bases are sitting on that wood grain background. The wood grain acts as a great grounding place, almost like they're sitting on a table or a mantle. And then to finish it off, I'm gonna add the Happy Holidays foiled sentiment right down on the center of that wood grain background. And I'm also gonna add a little bit of liquid adhesive to the top of that center tree, and I'll place down a star from the classic Christmas tree die set. I think that embellishes the tree perfectly and makes that center tree stand out beautifully. And here's a closer look at that finished card. I love how it looks by using that bark 3D embossing folder halfway off the card to create kind of a grounding place for the trees. And it looks so realistic down there by adding all of that great brown inking to the background. Then of course, finishing it off with those bottle brush trees. They have so much character and I love how they turned out. And of course, it was so much fun to do other than just green and bring in that rust and red colors for these bottle brush trees. This set is one of my favorites and I think this card is adorable. I can't wait to give it out. For this background, I want to add tons of texture, but not take away with any color. So it's not going to be distracting, but it's going to have lots of texture. For this, I'm going to go in and spray my stark white cardstock with water to prepare it for embossing. And then I'll place this right into the bark 3D embossing folder where I want it to emboss. Then I'll bring in my A platform base, place down my 3D embossing folder, and we'll use my D adapter plate and run this right through to get all of that gorgeous wood grain texture onto the card. And when I pull this out, check out all of that insane texture that that wood grain background gives. It is so beautiful, and I love just how much dimension it adds to the cardstock. Of course, you could ink it like you saw earlier, but I'm leaving this one just plain white with all of that texture. All right, now let's talk about the heart of the home, my favorite kind of area to decorate and also gather around as a family. My favorite part of the year is kind of sitting around the mantle with the fireplace on, watching Christmas movies. It really brings back some amazing memories of the holidays with family. And that's also one of my favorite spots to decorate. Me and my mom decorate our mantle every year. We do it a little bit different every year, and we have so much fun going all out on the mantle and putting some decor on it. And so starting off, we have the Mantle Village collection, which has a wooden mantle here that can span across an A2 size card, as well as two different types of large houses. They got a pretty simple and modern shape to them, as well as insert pieces that cut out all of the windows and emboss the doors, and you also have little doors you can add on top as well. You also have two different versions of bottle brush trees here that you can put alongside the houses on the mantle. And they turn out to be something like this when you put it all together, and it creates such a fun village scene for on top of your mantle. And I think these ones are so much fun. With the simple shapes of these houses, you can either go all out with different colors and make it more whimsical, or you can go in with really simple colors like I did here and just make a beautiful and simple mantle. But of course, I couldn't just stop there. Once me and the team had this idea and this was all designed, I said, wait guys, I think we might need a little bit more to decorate the mantle because I do something different every year, like I said, and I wanted options for you guys when you're creating your card projects. So in addition to that, we also wanted to release the mantle decoration set. So of course you have the mantle inside of the set, so you didn't need another one. But inside of the mantle decoration set, you have a banner and then all the letters that go with it that can either spell Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays on top of the banner. You have a stocking as well as 3 different stocking inserts that cut out different designs inside of that stocking. The top of the stocking if you want to add it, and little hooks to go on top. Then you have 2 adorable reindeer here in different positions, as well as little antlers that you can choose to add, and little wreaths that you can put around their neck, which I think is so fun and adorable. Then you have 2 different types of garlands, more of a greenery garland that you can put across the mantle, or you have a sort of beaded garland that you can cut out twice and swag across the mantle for some more decoration. And of course, there's a lot here, so I wanted to show you all of these pieces cut out. You can see those beautiful banners that spell the different sentiments, which I think is so much fun that that can act as your sentiment for the card. You have the 3 different types of stockings here. Again, really easy to layer up with just adding that hook and the top of the stocking there. You have this garland, which I was able to add little berries that are inside of this set. You can choose to add those or not, but they kind of make the garland complete with a couple little berries. These reindeer are so adorable. Of course, they're going to be great on top of your mantle, but I also think they're going to be fun to just use on holiday cards on their own. I love that you can add the different antlers if you want, or the wreaths across their neck, which is such a fun little festive touch. And then that beaded garland is really great. Again, you cut it out twice and you can wrap that underneath the mantle really beautifully. So I love that we added all of these different mantle decorations inside of here. And here you can see a mantle fully decked out just using the mantle decoration set and of course that mantle piece from the Mantle Village. And you can see how beautiful it is with that garland going across, the different reindeer on top, and the stockings hanging underneath. You can create such a great festive looking mantle for the holiday season. And I love that you can decorate it to fit your own personality, but also switch it up with different cards because you have so many different decorations to choose from inside of this set. All right, now for the houses in the set, I'm going to go in with these larger house backer pieces, and I'm going to cut them out using gold foil cardstock to make it look like the lights are on inside of these houses. You can skip this step if you don't want the windows or doors to have any light. Then to get all the detail in these houses, they both have insert pieces, which you'll place right inside of that die and line it up, and then you'll hold it in place with a little bit of mint tape. Same thing with this one, and use the tape to hold it down. Then for the houses, I want to use this really light gray kind of fog color. I have concrete looking houses that look very similar to this that I put on my mantle, so I think this is going to be really fun to recreate. Keeping it pretty monochrome, I'm also going to cut the doors out of the same color, but you could use a darker color if you want to. And then I'll cut the mantle piece and wood sticks for my trees out of a craft colored cardstock. And we'll run this all right through our die cutting machine to cut it all out. And then with these houses, it cuts the houses out again, but it cuts all of the window pieces and embosses a little area for the door so you know where to put it. And then for the trees, I'll cut it out of this olive green color. All right, then I'm gonna add some ink down to these pieces to shade and blend them in. I'm starting off with a little bit of gur on my blending brush, and I'm just gonna kind of go messily in with a little bit of ink and blend it down. I don't want this wood grain to look perfect or anything like that, so just adding little blotches of ink here and there. And then I'll go in using some Weeping Willow and add, again, a little bit here and there all over the wood piece. So it adds lots of texture and dimension to this. And then I'm gonna go in with a water sprayer and just add a little bit of water. Now my ink reacts with water, so it's going to sort of bleach the wood a little bit, and it gives it kind of an aged or weathered effect and makes the inking not look so perfect, which is what I want for this mantle piece. I think that looks great. All right, then let's add a little bit of depth and shading to the houses, going in with my light gray blending brush and just adding a little bit of woof all the way around the edges. Makes these look a lot more 3D and really brings them to life. And then I'll do the same thing for the doors. Add a little bit of shading. Last but not least, blending a little bit of green fake plant onto the bottom of these trees gives them lots of dimension. The houses are super easy to adhere together. All you need to do is glue the door right onto that embossed piece of the house. And then you can glue these houses to the gold die cut piece that we added before, which is going to add lots of shine and color in those windows. And for these bottle brush trees, we add glue to the front, and the stands go right onto the front of the trees. And it'll look something like that. You could also glue it to the back if you like that look better, but I glued all of mine to the front. All right, then I'll add some foam tape to the back of the mantle and adhere it right down. And then I'll adhere the houses down on some foam tape right on top of that mantle. And then I'll glue the trees down behind the houses right next to them. And that looks perfect. And before I finish this off, I want to add a little bit more decoration down onto this mantle. So I'm going to go into the extra mantle decorations here, and I'm going to go with this garland and also this beaded garland as well. So for the garland, I'm going to use this darker olive green color. And for this beaded garland, I'm going to go back in with the gold colored cardstock. And for the beaded garland, you'll want to cut it out twice from that gold. So before I move on, I've decided this background is just a little bit too plain for me. So I'm gonna go in with just a little bit of breakup blue, tap off any excess, and just super lightly blend on this color all throughout the background. And I'm just going to kind of go right up until that mantle, just adding this slight blue color all throughout. It doesn't add a lot, but I think it just adds a little bit of extra interest and just a slight bit of color that was necessary to help finish off this card nicely. And we'll even go in and sort of swipe on just a little bit of color to add a little bit more darkness to the most raised areas. I think that looks great. And then to finish it off, I'll add some glue down onto this garland, and we're going to drape it at the bottom of the mantle on either side here. So one goes that way, and then we'll add glue to the other side, and we're going to adhere that one going the opposite direction. And then for the beaded garlands, I'll just glue and tuck these right underneath that mantle, like it's coming out from underneath. And that just adds one more great pop of that metallic shine. I absolutely love that. And then I'll finish this off by adding that Season's Greeting sentiment right down below that mantle. And here's a closer look at that finished card. I absolutely love that mantle all put together using the regular Mantle Village set and the mantle decorations. It really creates a stunning effect, and there's so many different accessories and embellishments you can make to create a ton of different scenes on your mantles. This is just the very beginning of it. And of course, that bark in the background shows a really great way that you could use that bark folder for a ton of texture without it taking away from your card or without it just having to be brown. That little bit of blue really brings out all of that amazing texture without taking away from the rest of the card. This looks perfect, and for my love of home decor, I love that I can change out the mantle and create tons of different scenes with this set. Alright friends, so that was the end of today's video. Thank you so much for joining me as I walked you through this whole release and showed a bunch of different examples using these sets. This is just the very tip of the iceberg as to what you can do with these. I can't wait to share even more fun projects in the future using them. Leave me a comment down below letting me know which card was your favorite, and also down there is a full list of all the supplies that I used, as well as those new supplies that you can check out, and using those links helps support me, so I really appreciate it. And before we end the video, I also wanted to extend a huge thank you to the whole team at Spellbinders. Really, this wouldn't be possible without them. I send them all of these fun ideas and they really take them and run with them. So a huge shout out to all of the amazingly talented product designers there. They really are able to bring this vision to life really beautifully and seamlessly across all of these different products that they designed. And then specifically a huge thanks to Robin. She organizes all of this and makes it all happen and is so amazing. So thank you, Robin. And also played a huge part in this collection as well. We sort of sat down and ideated together, and this is where we were able to take maybe 3 SKUs and really design a whole collection across them, and just kind of kept adding things that we thought were necessary to create this amazing collection. So again, a huge thank you to the whole team at Spellbinders for making this possible. Like I said, it's one of my favorite collections so far. I think they did such an amazing job with it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon for another card making and crafting video.